Three people are dead after a man opened fire in an Indianapolis mall. The shooter was killed by a Good Samaritan, police said. And you know, one would think that in the wake of the Buffalo supermarket shooting that had politicians calling for gun control almost immediately, on top of the fact that there was also the Uvalde, Texas school shooting, where, again, politicians were quick to call for gun control before the bodies were even cold. Even the likes of Justin Trudeau was calling for strict gun control. See, you would think that a guy who walks into a mall and shoots three people as a part of a mass shooting, especially so closely to these other events, would also have politicians clamoring all over this right now to call for gun control. But remarkably, this is not front page news right now. I mean, if we look at what's trending on Twitter, it's nowhere to be seen. You got Pat King trending, #1, and we're going to talk about that today. But if you just look through here, there is nothing, absolutely nothing that would suggest anything even happened. And granted, this is a Canadian Twitter, but if we do a quick, location switch to the United States Twitter for what's trending, take a look. There is nothing here that would indicate that anything went down at this mall. And the reasons for that, I'm going to go back to Canada Twitter, because I want to talk about Pat King later. But the reasons for the fact that this is not making front page news right now, ladies and gentlemen, largely has to do with this. Listen closely to what this police officer has to say following this incident right here.
Very, very fast response, but I'm going to tell you, the real hero of the day is the citizen that was lawfully carrying a firearm in that food court and was able to stop this shooter almost as soon as he began.
There you have it. This is why it's not making the mainstream news cycles and having this strict call for gun control, because it doesn't play into the narrative that all guns are bad, and that guns should be taken out of the hands of lawful citizens and put into the hands of the government and law enforcement instead. So we're going to cover that, guys. As I said, Pat King is also trending on Twitter. And as we see here from the Toronto Star, convoy organizer Pat King granted bail after 150 days in jail. Now, first of all, guys, Pat King is not the convoy organizer. Not even close. In fact, the real organizers of the event have already publicly distanced themselves from him multiple times, saying he's not a part of our organizational team. He's not organizing this thing at all. Yet, even though that is out and public knowledge, the mainstream media has just been, repeating each other. If you do a search for Pat King granted bail, look at this. Freedom Convoy leader, Pat King granted bail. That's the CBC. Convoy organizer, global convoy organizer, CP24, the Star, the National Post, the Globe and Mail, all calling him the organizer. Look at Daily Hive here, the leader of the Freedom Convoy, Pat King, one of the major players in organizing the so-called Freedom Rally Convoy. No, he wasn't a major player in organizing it at all. The real organizers came out and said that. But let's for 1 second imagine that he is the convoy organizer, okay? Still, the stipulations of his bail are so draconian, it's insane. While on bail, he must return to Alberta. He's got to live under a curfew. He's banned from using any social media. He can't organize any kind of COVID-related demonstrations, convoy stuff. He can't contact fellow leaders within the freedom movement. This is just absolutely insane. So we're going to talk about that as well in this video, guys. Meanwhile, in other news, trans swimmer Lia Thomas has just been nominated for the NCAA Woman of the Year. That's right, this guy who is pretending to be a woman so that he can beat girls in swimming competitions has just been nominated Woman of the Year by the NCAA. As I said here on Facebook, Lia Thomas is just nominated Woman of the Year by the University of Pennsylvania for the NCAA. What an amazing accomplishment. More women need to strive to be just like her if they ever want to defeat the patriarchy. And in related news, get a load of this Sky News headline. Incarcerated U.S. transgender woman is doing all right after impregnating 2 inmates. Transgender woman Demi Minor has just had to be removed from a woman's New Jersey prison after impregnating 2 female inmates, according to Sky News host Andrew Bolt. Authorities had been forced to, by legal action, to accept that he was a woman and jailed him with other women, Bolt said. He pointed to a video of Minor inside the prison in a common area with female inmates talking on the phone and telling the person on the receiver, quote, "I'm doing all right." Yeah, I'd say he's doing okay. Impregnating 2 women? This woman impregnating women, Bolt said. It's crazy. It's a crazy world. People, and it's getting crazier. How much longer will this go on? And that indeed is the question, guys. We're going to talk about all that and much, much more in this video. But just before we do, really quickly, I'd ask that you check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate if you appreciate my efforts to bring you this info. Here you can do PayPal by clicking there. You can do Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. You can join me on Subscribestar by clicking there. You can also sign up for a monthly recurring contribution by clicking here. You can send an e-transfer to Dan at pressfortruth.ca, or you can send things to my P.O. box, guys. Links for all of that are located in the description below. Thank you so much to anybody who does take the time and effort to support my work here at Press for Truth. All right, guys, so as we said, this is being buried, in the kind of middle of the newspaper type of news, and we've already seen precisely why, but let's take a look at this. 4 people were dead, including the suspected shooter, after a man with a long gun entered a mall south of Indianapolis and opened fire, police said. 2 others were injured in the early evening attack at Greenwood Park Mall. Jim Eisen, the police chief of Greenwood, Indiana, said at a Sunday night news conference. 1 remained hospitalized, he said. 12-year-old girl with abrasions was treated and released. 4 of the 6 people who were injured or killed were female, he said, and the shooter appeared to have been fatally shot by a 22-year-old Good Samaritan who witnessed the attack and opened fire with a handgun with the intention of ending the assault. He praised the young man, identifying him only as being from the Bartholomew County, south of the metro area. The real hero of the day was the Samaritan that was lawfully carrying a firearm and who was able to stop the shooter almost as soon as it began. The mayor even chimed in, also praising the Good Samaritan who stepped in, saying in a statement Sunday evening that this person saved lives tonight. On behalf of the city of Greenwood, I am grateful for his quick action and heroism in this situation. And indeed, this is why this is exposing the fact that gun laws are ridiculous, because criminals and bad people are going to still get their hands on guns no matter what, if there's a law or not. Spoiler alert, they don't follow the law. And all this really means is that what you're going to do is make it hard for lawful, peaceful, abiding, lawful people to be able to stop situations like this. So I think that's why this is not currently making the headlines and the news cycle, as we already shown you. They're already explaining that it's because that there was a firearm in the hands of the right people, which totally destroys and goes against the mainstream narrative that all guns are bad. But really, obviously, if you're calling for gun control and you believe that, what you're really calling for is that guns be taken out of the hands of lawful abiding citizens and so-called criminals and put into the hands of the police and the military and the government. So you're not for gun control, you're just for gun control being in the right hands. But that doesn't work like that, ladies and gentlemen. Again, wanted to talk about what's going on with Pat King, and as I said, let's imagine that he is the organizer. Or forget about that. Let's not even imagine that. Let's just look at it for what it really is. He didn't even organize this. He's just a guy who took part in a protest, and just look at some of his conditions here under bail. Exactly 5 months after he was arrested for his role in the so-called Freedom Convoy, Pat King was granted bail on Monday as he faces a slew of criminal charges as a key figure in last winter's controversial protests. No, he inserted himself as that, and maybe now he might think twice about doing these kinds of things. But at any rate, King's mouth dropped in the prisoner's box of an Ottawa courtroom when he realized that he would be released after spending 150 nights in custody since his arrest. Later, as the conditions of his release were being read in court, King bowed his head and appeared to weep silently into a white tissue. Reasons for the decision from the Superior Court judge and London Weinstein, as well as the evidence heard during his bail hearing last week, cannot be reported on because of a court-ordered publication ban. And isn't that interesting? You may recall one of the actual organizers of this protest, Tamara Lynch, who has been in and out of jail and had bails, bond conditions, all this stuff. It's been widely reported on. People are talking about it and bringing huge attention to the grave injustices happening with the Canadian courts and the Canadian system here. So it looks like they've learned their lesson from that, and now they put a publication ban on Pat King's case, so people apparently can't talk about it. King agreed to submit to a $25,000 deposit for his bail on top of bonds committed by his sureties, whose names are also under a publication ban worth more than $15,000. While on bail, King will be subject to a curfew. I believe that's from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. He's not going to be allowed out. He's barred from using any social media. He must return and reside in Alberta as soon as possible. He also can't contact other freedom protest organizers, the actual organizers like Tamara Lynch, Chris Barber, BJ Dichter, Tyson Freedom, George Billings, and Tom Morezo. King is also prohibited from giving any media interviews. He's not allowed to organize or promote any anti-government protests or demonstrations related to the freedom cause. And he must deactivate his social media accounts, and this is the big one. The real Pat King website must be taken down within 48 hours. This is insanely draconian coming from the Canadian courts for a man who simply took part in a peaceful, lawful protest at the nation's capital. Absolutely shocking that they're going to be taking away his website, gagging him. Now it remains to be seen, is he going to speak up and, try to, do anything about this and then just land himself back in jail? Who knows? That remains to be seen. We shall see. But I just wanted to point out to you just how draconian this is. His conditions on being out on bail. Absolutely ludicrous. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, guys. Also, with this whole situation here, with a man who claims to be a woman who's impregnating women in a female prison. In case you didn't know, guys, 4 or 5 years ago, Justin Trudeau made it a law so that the exact same things can happen here in Canada. And I exposed that in this piece here. Keep male prisoners out of female prisons. This should be obvious, but it's not, so please share. And in this piece, I say, in 2017, the Trudeau government made it possible for a male prisoner to transfer to a female prison simply because he identifies as being a woman. And get this, he doesn't need to have a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. He doesn't need to be on hormones or to have had surgery. He doesn't need to change his name or his birth certificate. He doesn't even have to present himself as a woman. But with this new policy change put in place by the Liberals, he can simply claim that he's a woman and therefore demand to be transferred. The Correctional Services of Canada changed its gender identity policy to allow convicted male criminals, including serial sex offenders and child rapists, to be transferred to women's prisons. This policy has resulted in several female victims of male-perpetuated sexual violence, and women are now afraid to speak out. In this video, Dan Dix of Press for Truth visits the Fraser Valley Institution for Women to interview some of the people who have experienced this firsthand and who are leading the charge to get men out of female prisons. Guys, this is a really important piece. Let's check it out really quickly. We'll just watch the intro here on Odyssey. Just to give you
this is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. We're here outside of a women's correctional services, a women's prison, where they have been allowing male prisoners to enter there just by identifying as being women We're talking about men who have sex offenses being allowed to stay in this prison with women. So there's a number of people here, rightly so, protesting this. So we're going to talk to them today and get their thoughts on how this came about. We can be to the point now where they're allowing sex offenders and men to share a prison cell with women.
So, as I said, I go on to interview these women who are being directly, affected by this and who have had firsthand experience with all this. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. A lot of people don't even know that this is actually happening in Canada. And when you see our headlines like this is why I wanted to bring it to your attention that we have the similar thing going on right now, and nobody seems to be speaking out about it. But I am. Again, if you appreciate my efforts to continuously bring you guys this information, once again, don't forget to check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Again, if you do appreciate my efforts. So that's it, guys. This is not making the headlines today because of the fact that it doesn't play into their gun control narrative. Pat King, who did not organize the convoy, however, he was just taking part in it, has very draconian aspects to his bail conditions, which just goes to show you how bad Canada is actually doing. And the fact that the NCAA would nominate this guy as Female of the Year should also be absolutely, outrageous in the minds of the masses. But it's not. People will just fluff this off like it's really nothing, but it's not. It's a big deal. This is why I'm bringing it to your attention, guys. Once again, if you do appreciate my efforts, don't forget to check the links in the description below, whether you're watching this on Odyssey or Minds or BitChute or Rumble or Float or Hive or YouTube. Hopefully not YouTube, but one of the other ones. The description will have the links and all the sources to this, also to where you can find me at pressfortruth.ca. And don't forget to smash that like button, or fire, or bananas, or diamonds, or whatever it is, wherever you're watching this, and also share this video with your friends and family who you think need to see it the most. So that's all for today, guys. I want to thank you once again for tuning in. Stay tuned. I will have more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.